Is the building industry recession-proof?
Well, I don't think anyone can say that, but there is one builder that comes to mind I know of in Sydney who wants to become absolutely known in the area that he's building in, so that if anyone is thinking of renovating, they think of him and will reach out and talk to him to build. But does that make him recession-proof?
Welcome to the Builder and Marketing Podcast, a show about how to best position your building business in your marketplace. In this episode, Corne and JP talk about what that may look like for you in a looming recession.
Bit of a controversial podcast today.
Yeah.
And I guess we have to put in like a little bit of a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Like, what's a disclaimer?
We are not financial advisors.
Yeah.
We're not accountants. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not. What do you call this? A futurist. We can't read the future. No crystal ball.
Yeah, no crystal ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess what we just want to talk about is like looking at what a lot of our clients are doing at the moment.
Yeah.
With the goal in mind to recession-proof their business.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what a recession can do. The last one was like 2008.
Yeah.
Australia was a bit different to America and so on. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a disclaimer. This is just us talking about seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
Going to industry events, talking to builders, talking to other people around this space.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, let's jump in. The first question is, like you asked me earlier, is it recession-proof? How would someone even begin thinking about that topic or looking at that topic to begin building a recession-proof business? Where does it all start?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like we talk to a lot of builders and we see two type of builders.
Yeah.
And it's not really, builders, but it's like people. We see two different type of people.
Yeah.
One with like a very proactive mindset and one with like a reactive mindset. The proactive mindset, they are preparing, they are doing everything they can in their control. Remember, there's a lot you can't control, especially with recession stuff, but they're taking a lot of responsibility in all areas. Personally, with their own mindset, with their business, how they set up their business, their marketing, their sales, their operations, and versus, some of those people and builders that are like taking the reactive approach.
Yeah.
And we, like, whenever we come across builders that are on that reactive side, what do they normally do? Like, why do they seem reactive to us?
If you looked at their business, it's very short-term orientated. They look at more of a very short-term cause and effect perspective. So I do this and I'm looking for a reaction straight away. I'm looking for that immediate shift or change or something. And they don't understand long-term. They don't understand compounding. They don't have that in their framework or their perspective.
Yeah. And I think if we look at the world as a whole, like if you track back the last 10, 20 years, I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people were more inclined to think long-term. And these days it's about instant gratification.
Yeah. Big time.
And there's a lot of reasons why people have gone that way, including myself. We're all like basically wired at the moment to look for instant gratification.
Well, I think so much of our daily life, things happen so much faster.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it's busy. Our brains are busy rewiring to think and believe that everything happens quick.
Yeah.
Action.
And that's like
outcome.
our expectation now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, I guess, what we need to talk about today. But for those builders that you see as proactive, they put a stance, they put their foot down. They're like, I'm going to think long term. Yeah. I'm going to prep. I'm going to build a business here that is, going after the long term. Like, what do you see? What are some of the attributes of those people?
Well, some of those, a big thing for them is how they talk.
Yeah.
So they talk about what ifs. They have contingency plans. They have plan Bs and Cs. A lot of what they do is sort of integrated with everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm fluffing around there. But another thing is that you look at what they consume and who they're surrounded by.
That's a big one. I mean, recession or no recession, this topic here is massive. So what do you consume? I mean, there's a few like analogies. I know in the tech space, like coding, like they've got this thing called GOBO. So it's garbage in equals garbage out.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever you put in, there's going to be bad out. So yeah, what do you consume? Who do you hang around with? Who's putting content in your mind? Fearful content, negative content. What like platforms are you listening to, watching?
The question you asked earlier, how do we tell the difference? It is quite phenomenal, and how obvious it is when we are talking to a builder and it's like, okay, this guy, he's switched on. This guy definitely knows his stuff. And then as we start chatting, he'll just start talking about concepts or frameworks. He'll quote things, or he'll say, "Oh, I do it like this, or I do it like that, or this is how I've been doing it." And it's like, "Yeah, what book are you reading at the moment?" And they'll say X, and it's like, "Yeah, I thought so."
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or have you read this?
Yeah.
Yep, I read it twice. And it's like, right, okay. So there's someone who's very, very switched on.
Yeah.
And you just know straight away.
Yeah, like we had lunch with a builder last week, and it was like that. I caught myself a few times, like in preparation for this podcast, thinking like, oh, I wonder if he's going to bring stuff up about like the recession or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing.
Yeah.
It's like if you just spoke to this guy, you would never even know. Like you could almost, he doesn't even watch TV or anything. I can just see that.
Yeah.
And he fills himself with those really good books and so on.
Good information.
But like why should, people do that? I keep saying people because, if I say builders, they're people. Yeah. Well, why should they do that?
Because I feel like it helps, we know, we've seen it.
Yeah.
It helps those that we work with, ourselves, keep your eyes on the goal and not get distracted. And I think it just keeps you with a proactive mindset, not being reactive. As soon as you stop consuming that good content, having your eyes in the right direction, on the right goal, the right prize, whatever that is, if it's helping people or whatever, as soon as you become reactive, then you start looking, left and right.
Yeah, and you almost become more selfish.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got to store. I've got to keep stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't do both. It's hard to help and also be super selfish.
Yeah, you can't have both. I know one thing that we have really monitored closely is a lot of the builders we talk to and work with. And there are builders that I've been talking to since prior to COVID, and we haven't worked with them yet. Maybe it's not a fit or whatever reason, but I'm just keeping in contact because I'm fascinated by them.
Yeah.
And you look at and see where they are now.
Yeah.
And everyone experienced, COVID made us really busy. But there are those that are really busy and behind, and there are those that are busy, in control, and way further ahead.
Yeah, and building like a solid business now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it like reminds me of almost like the whole marathon kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like obviously you're into running. Marathons are too short for you basically. Seriously, you like the easy 50Ks.
50, yeah.
But yeah, I remember when you did your first one, like you did a lot of prep.
Yeah.
Like I'll go on Strava and see you started running at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yep.
So why would you prep for a marathon, or like let's call it the 50K, the GC50?
Well, if you don't prep for it, then you're going to find it way harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Much harder. We got a guy on our team here who, he's done a video on it, ran a marathon without training.
Yeah.
So you can get it done.
Yeah.
But it's a lot
gonna be hard.
slower. It's a lot harder.
It's going to be a slog.
It's a slog.
Yeah.
Do you want that? Or do you...
He's looking at us
He's
now.
in the room. It's not you. It's
not me. I have not run more than 12Ks.
But one thing you said there earlier, which I want to raise, is what are you consuming?
Yeah.
And who are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah.
And in preparation for that first 50, I'd never run it. I thought a marathon was a stupid distance. 50 was just like, what the heck? Who does that?
Yeah.
And so I signed up for it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to push my glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And I then was very careful in what I consumed prior to the race.
What do you mean consume? Like head consumption, mindset?
Yeah.
Or food?
So definitely food. Obviously that plays a big part.
Yeah.
But what I was reading and listening to, and it was amazing the people who, and this is something I think everyone sees, and some people are more aware of it and some people are not, those that have run 50s, that have run 100s, that have run 250s, 500s, like it's like, what, people do that? Yeah. They're insane.
Yeah.
You listen to them and their mindset. And I think it was so different from like friends, family, my mum and dad, like I mentioned it to, and they're like 50. I remember mentioning it to my mum and dad, and they're like, oh, no, you're not a runner. Your brother's the runner.
Yeah,
He's the tall guy.
Yeah.
The two of you have never run more than, I don't know, a couple Ks. Like,
yeah. So
you are not the people I should be listening to, and you're not consuming the right information. Your outlook and your perspective is purely based on the reactive information that you've just been fed.
Yeah.
You weren't choosing what to feed yourself, and that was a crazy.
So what did you do? Like when your parents said, no, you can't, like, well, watch out.
I laughed in my head. I didn't laugh at them. That'd be disrespectful. But in my head, I was like, of course they're going to say that.
Yeah.
Look at what they're consuming.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Take that analogy for builders and business owners moving into this impending recession or downturn, whatever. Those things happen in business. Those things happen in life.
Yeah.
Is what are you consuming? What are you listening to?
Yeah.
And just be wary when someone talks and gives you advice. I know GC always says free. Free advice is always garbage. That free advice, who's it from?
Yeah.
What experience do they have in offering you that advice?
Yeah.
And are they someone who you want to become like?
Yeah.
Have they achieved things that you're wanting to achieve?
Yeah, and I mean it's the old saying is like you're the person like
the average.
If you look at the last your 4 or 5 friends,
you're the average of your 5 friends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, you had the choice. Like I can almost like visualize this. I'm a visual kind of person. You're like getting pulled like one side by like all these people that have done like 250Ks, like ultra marathons and stuff. And then the other side is like the general public, your friends, the people you grew up with that have never done that. They might have done like a 12K.
And
like
that's
me.
who I was.
Yeah. And it's like, and I mean, we'll probably do another podcast on this around like who you surround yourself with. Yeah. But I think this is massive. And like
one thing I want to add to that, is we've seen guys who we work with. So we work very closely with our builders. And we have great relationships with them, and we can see their growth. And we've had some guys come in that have that poor mindset. Yeah. But they know that they want to do more.
Yeah, they acknowledge it. Yeah.
And they acknowledge it. And so then we put them onto some good resources, and they start surrounding themselves with some of our other good builders, and they get mentored by some of our other good builders. And it's like, holy moly, like 6 months, a year, 2 years later,
it's like a different person.
Yeah. You know, and then it's so funny to watch them when they're in an environment. We've seen when someone from has a similar mindset that they used to have say something, and then they turn around and go, "Nah, man, that's not." You know,
it happens. It happens so much.
Yeah.
I wish we could capture those moments and like publish it here. It'd be so good. Yeah, but I mean, with the marathon, you know, it's so similar to business. Like, it's such a good analogy for business because it's just like, but it's just compressed into like a day thing, like a half a day thing. But what it teaches me, like when I look at that, and I mean, obviously I'm into cycling. I like long distance cycling stuff. So I've done some massive cycling things, but it's also like it's a long-term perspective. You know, it's not just like our friend Denzel on our team, show up, no training. Like you can definitely do that. But if you keep doing that, like at every marathon, it's going to take a toll. And I think a lot of people run businesses like that in terms of, you know, they don't do any preparation.
Just wing it.
Yeah. And then they go, oh, my sales pipeline's empty. Okay, I need
I'll
a
just
job.
Take the next job that's in front of me.
Yeah. And then it's probably the wrong type of job, wrong type of client.
Yeah, and that just has this like...
Yeah. And then you get that one, and that keeps you now busy. And now you can't do sales and marketing, can't build a pipeline. When you finish that one, you need another one.
You're not just busy. I mean, we talked about this in another podcast. You're not just busy. It's needing more energy from you because you were reactive. You didn't plan it very well. You just started it. There wasn't a big planning design phase in it.
Yeah.
The likely you didn't choose the client. You had to take them on. So there's a good chance that they're not ideal. So they're going to take more of your time.
And then you can't build the team, and you're just back at square one.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar kind of thing. And I mean, if you want to run a marathon with ease, it's, you know, there's a lot of different things, and a lot of it is like the preparations leading up to it. It's like the 6 months before that. It's about, you know, fueling. It's about, you know, injury prevention. Like if you injure yourself, then obviously you can't run. Yeah. Like what else? Like there's all these different things.
Yeah. So the big thing is, what are you doing to prepare and ready yourself, ready your business?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one guy comes to mind. who we're going to be working with pretty soon, he's down in Sydney. I think he'd be a great example of someone who, and this is, again, what are you consuming? And you have to believe it.
Yeah.
He believes, and that's why I reckon his business is highly recession-proof, is that he's gone, cool, in this area, I want to become the number one go-to in renovations. If you think of renovating, you will know about me. That's the mindset he has. So we're going to be working with him to help him do that.
Yeah. So
he's well on his way to that as well. But
yeah. And I mean, if you're a builder now, where are we? Like 21st of Feb, 23, like this recession looming and all that kind of stuff. So as an action item for you as a builder, it's like list out what are some of the things you can get super proactive about. And one of them would be like, one goal should be everyone in my location where I build, and even a little bit further out, should know about me. All right. I need to have the best brand image around town. Yeah. When I drive my truck or whatever, it needs to be squeaky clean. It needs to have the best signage. Yeah. My site signage needs to be perfect. The guys on site need to be dressed well, no swearing, people here, you know. It needs to be, you need to be run a tight ship right now. Yeah. And then also, in the digital space, everyone needs to see you everywhere. You need to make that your number one goal. So that's a little bit of an action item for builders right now. But I guess that brings us to like the second part of this podcast, and that is what's one thing you can do in terms of building a sales pipeline to avoid this recession? And again, avoid it's a big word there. We're not claiming anything. Yeah. It's all about, again, like
how are you going to work through it?
Yeah. Again, we see both type of builders, the proactive ones, the reactive ones. This is what the proactive ones are doing. These are some of the traits. One of them is they build their front end pipeline as much as possible.
Yeah. Front end heavy.
Yeah. And what that means is, like, if you don't know what front end means, most builders, their pipeline starts from the moment someone inquires with them, and then when they sign a contract.
I would say that I've talked to a lot of builders and raised that topic with them of late, and I haven't quite got the percentage shift. Let's say 50-50. Yeah. 50% will tell you that their pipeline starts once that job is signed. That's the only pipeline they have.
But that's a project pipeline, isn't it?
But that's all they have.
Right.
Prior to that, it's in their head. Okay. It's like in my emails.
Yeah.
There's no reactive.
Yeah. Okay.
You know? And then you have those other builders that, okay, no, I do have a bit of a pipeline, salesy pipeline. Yeah. But it starts when someone inquires with me.
Yeah. So that's a sales pipeline.
Yeah.
I think, builders need to look at their pipeline almost in three parts. Like and I'll start with the end. That's your project pipeline.
Scheduling
it's like it's a done deal. It's going through that pipeline, going through that process. And then the pipeline stage just before that is your sales pipeline. Yeah. And again, that is where someone inquires with you and signs contract. Yeah. And then you've got a marketing pipeline as well. And your marketing and sales pipeline, they need to start working together more. It needs to be one thing. Too many people separate them. Yeah. And too many people, builders, don't even have the marketing pipeline. And that is the front end that they've got to build.
And I would say a lot of the guys, one thing that we help our builders with, and we're helping more and more with that, is with that marketing pipeline, is making it visible.
Yeah.
Making it actualize that
pipeline.
Well,
maybe we should talk about like what that marketing pipeline looks like.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to explain this? So
the courtyard analogy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to make it like super relevant for our clients, when someone inquires, like let's look at your sales pipeline again. When someone inquires with you, they are like pretty much ready to build. They are inquiring. Yeah, it might still take a year or whatever, but they're pretty determined to build. What about the people that are like a year to 5 years out? That is your marketing pipeline there. Yeah. And that's the most value. If you build your marketing pipeline as much as possible, that when that filters through to your sales pipeline, that is where you can start choosing your clients. Yeah. So a lot of builders and so on talk about they want choice of client. It can't happen without that marketing pipeline.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. A lot of guys just don't get that. They say they want choice, but they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with all these people. It's like, well, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But they don't think that, hang on a sec, there is a way I can be dealing with a lot of people How you define that, I think, is important. And then you can have choice.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys think of dealing with all those people as they need to physically be talking with all of these people.
Yeah, and I mean, that comes back down to, again, like leverage, using leverage to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's no secret. You have to deal with those people, all right, in quotation marks. You have to deal with them. How do you deal with them? That's the thing. Most builders, they think it's a manual type of task. Yes, it can be. But you've got technology now as a leverage.
Yeah.
If you can understand what message you need to put in front of those people, so you have to understand first who those people are, what their problems are, their fears, desires.
That's very important.
Then you can nurture them. And you do that through a system. You don't have to do it manually. So that's probably...
It should be completely automated.
Yeah.
And you should... all those people and dealing with them should be happening without you knowing or worrying about it. So that by the time... And this is what I love about what we do with our builders, is by the time that person comes through...
Yeah.
Almost the choice has been made for you, because the system has been set up so well that it's done the choosing for you.
Yeah, it's like self-qualification almost.
That person coming through is going, you're like, damn, man, I would have chosen this person. Yeah. And then go from there.
Yeah. And maybe I'll quickly talk on like the transition from marketing pipeline to sales pipeline. What is that?
Yeah.
You can imagine that like someone's walking in this corridor, and that's the marketing pipeline, and they go down this corridor, and in this corridor there's like paintings on the wall and like things to educate them on and stuff, and to like build a trust in this builder. And when they get to the door, they've got to like almost like have a secret code word to be able to go through that door into the sales pipeline. Yeah. Okay. Don't let the bad ones in through that door. And the way you do that, or the way our builder clients do that, is to put a questionnaire right there. Yeah. And that questionnaire is to qualify them. Yeah. And only if they qualify, then they go into the sales pipeline.
Yeah. The analogy that I've found has been helpful for some of the guys I talk to is that courtyard effect. So it's kind of what you're saying, like they're walking down the street, you get their attention, bring them into the courtyard. Yeah. Then that's your courtyard. That's your property. Yeah. So you get to then, and imagine if you're throwing a party in the courtyard. Yeah. And imagine if you could have only your best friends, all the great people there that you would really get along with, they were there. And if you kept creating that environment, the people that don't fit that would eventually go, man, this is not for me. And they would just leave the party. Yeah. It's not for them. The others would stay until eventually, and this is when you look at the building aspect, is like, all right, cool, we're ready to build for the next few people. Let's open that door. Yeah. And then you get to choose. But again, the people coming through that door, the choice has been happening automated for you. Yeah,
that's it. No, I think that's really valuable. So yeah, just I guess a few takeaways. You know, building a sales pipeline to avoid the recession. Again, like we're seeing the proactive builders having like a really good mindset, investing in their mindset, making sure they don't consume the wrong things, choosing to consume the right things. It's choice. You can't just let it happen every day. Otherwise it's reactive. And you got to build your front end pipeline, your marketing pipeline.
Building that front end pipeline should be heavy on the front end so you can have choice. And at that front end, you should be in total control.
Thank you for listening or watching this podcast. If you're not already subscribed, visit bizvideo.com.au/podcast, where you can enter your email, and then we will send you each new episode.